question. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? I was so quick to get into my topic, I didn't give my viewers the benefit of knowing who you really are, David A. Bythewood, Esquire. I can sit here and read your wonderful bio. You're of Black African heritage. From English, I love this, English, African Americans, Native American, Seminole and Cherokee, Irish and Jewish.
Yeah, that's true.
Wow, talk about a melting pot. Who's from what side of what family? And then I want you to tell us about your law background, but what side of the family came together with all those nationalities and ethnicities?
Okay, what we know the most about is the Bythewood name. That goes back to my great-great-grandfather. Well, let's start with my great-great-grandfather. When his first wife died, he immigrated from England and traveled to the United States. He met a woman, his second wife, he met in New York. Her name was Elizabeth Taylor. I don't think it's the same one that we know about today.
Sounds good on paper.
At least her death certificate says she died in 1828.
Okay.
But he met her, they were married in Charleston, and he acquired the Whitehall Plantation off the coast, on Lady Island off the coast of Beaufort, South Carolina. When she died in 1828, then he married his mulatto slave, who's named Mary, and the census records show that she's a lady of the house. Anyone who wants to check that, she was the lady of the plantation. And such an interesting thing because in the Beaufort Sea Islands, they taught their slaves to read and write. They lived with the families. They considered the people who lived on the mainland low class. If they were going to marry their children to someone, it was either one of the families on the island or they'd have to go to Charleston or Columbia, South Carolina, to find a suitable mate. Those who lived in Beaufort were not considered suitable.
Interesting.
When he died, which was in 1848. She became the lady of the house. Then the Civil War came. Beaufort fell. The family escaped on shallow draft boats up rivers. And then they came back down. And the white members of the family were treated like dirt. But because Mary was a mulatto, they sold her house. So the whole family moved into her house.
Okay.
Yeah, it was interesting. Also, most of the family's land was in South Carolina. It was lost to carpetbaggers. There's a Supreme Court case having to do with Bythewood land in South Carolina.
You want to finish telling us a little bit about? I was very intrigued with your family background. How did you get into law? Let's jump ahead.
That's very complex. I think you want to ask me something else. That just takes so long to speak about.
All right, I'll ask you the question is, how did you come to take a photo as an amateur photographer, a photo that was used on the cover of a Herbie Hancock album, Speak Like a Child, and your photo received a Grammy nomination? Please, I feel like I'm in the presence of royalty. Tell me, how did that happen?
Well, Herbie and I have been friends since, I believe, 1969, 1960. At that time, he was playing with the Miles Davis Quintet. We got to be very good friends. He with his fiancée, myself with my girlfriends. We'd go different places together. And one weekend in February, I believe it was 1969, we were out in the Hamptons. We drove out to Montauk Point, and we were taking pictures. And I took a picture of him, and I took a picture of Gigi, his then fiancée, now wife. And he said, "Hey, get this," and he bends over and it's like a little kid kissing, and I captured it several times, and then we looked at it and he said, "This is great," you know. He wanted to use it on the album. I said, "Yeah, go ahead, here, it's yours." So he took it to Frank Wolf at Blue Note. Frank said, "Gee, this is fantastic, the naivety and everything else." As a matter of fact, the album is called Speak Like a Child. If you want to pick up the album, Herbie speaks about the whole affair and how it got to be the album cover, and the cover got the Grammy nomination.
So we are in the presence of royalty. Well, you son of a gun!